All right, so today I want to talk about this vaccine mandate that you saw President Joe Biden talking about a couple of weeks ago. A couple of weeks ago, in a nutshell, he basically said that I'm fed up. I'm tired of you people that have not gotten vaccinated. So, what we're going to do is to go ahead and say it's required for everybody to get the vaccine. Now, how they're doing that is they're saying, companies with over 100 employees, they're going to highly encourage those companies to have all of their employees vaccinated. When it comes to government and people who do business with the government, work with the government, they're going to have to get vaccinated. Contractors that work for the government will have to get vaccinated. So it's a basically nationwide mandate that's going on with this vaccination. Now, what I would like to know is what you think. What are your thoughts on being told that you have to get vaccinated as opposed to it being your own decision? And do you think that the problem is the unvaccinated? Have you bought into this idea that the reason why the pandemic is as bad as it is because of people who are failing to get the vaccine? So I would love for you to leave your comments. Let us know what you think about this vaccine mandate. If you're for it, if you're against it, what's your perspective on it? How do you see it? Share it in the comments below. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share you what I think about the vaccine mandate, and that is very simply this. I think that the vaccine should be one of those situations where if you want to get the vaccine, if you feel like it's best for you, if you have underlying conditions and you say, hey, I think the vaccine is best for me and my family, then I think that you should, have that or be afforded the right to do that if that's what you want to do. I think that we live in a country like America where we have access to vaccines that in and of itself is a privilege. And I understand that. And for those of us who want to exercise that privilege, that right to be able to go out and have a vaccine if we want the vaccine, I think that's great. That's totally up to you. I also think that people who don't see it the same as you, who say, I don't want the vaccine or I don't need the vaccine, I'm making a decision not to get the vaccine, should not be pressured into getting a vaccine. The whole pandemic should not be blamed on people who decide against getting vaccinated for their own reasons. I heard President Biden say in his speech that it's not about personal choice, it's not about freedoms. Well, if it's not about your freedom and your personal choice, what is it about? We live in America. We talk about all the time how military personnel like me go out and fight for the right to be free, to do the things that Americans are free to do. And one of those things is I have a choice whether I want to put medication into my body or not, especially medication that we don't know for sure what the long term effects are of some of these medications that is in the vaccine. And if somebody chooses to say that they don't want to take that medication, then I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that they should be ridiculed. I don't think that they should be held out as the problem. As President Biden put it almost, is that he could understand why people are so frustrated with the unvaccinated. And it's, that same type of thinking, I think, that is making people feel that way because, you give people this idea that it's somehow on vaccinated people or unvaccinated people why, we're in the situation that we're in. But I don't think that's the case at all. We have some other measures, some other things that are in place to mitigate the spread of the virus, and I think that those things were working pretty well from the outside looking in. When it comes down to masking, I think that is something that is definitely good. Something that was obviously working. Having the social distancing, different things such as that. But to go in and say I'm required to get a vaccine, I think that's taking it a step too far. Especially when you start to blame it on unvaccinated people, blame the situation on the unvaccinated people. To me, is just a little bit probably misguided. To blame it on a small group of people, 25% of the people who've decided not to get vaccinated. I've decided not to get vaccinated, and up until this point, I have not been infected with the virus. I have not passed it to anybody else. So I just don't feel the need to get vaccinated. I understand that it's not just about me. It's about everybody. It's about for the greater good of 330 million people that live here in the United States. I get that, but I also understand that I went out and fought so we would have, the freedom, the right to say whether or not I want a vaccine. And if I still remember correctly, we often talk about the things that we fight for. Well, that's one of those freedoms. I get the right to choose whether I want a vaccine or not. At least it should be that way. According to President Biden, though, he's saying now that no, you don't get to choose. And if you say you don't want the vaccine, then your job is at stake. If you say you don't want the vaccine, you may not be able to get the same hospital care as somebody else may get, so that, that's already vaccinated. So it's I think it's a dangerous game that we're playing here, based off of somebody wanting to or not wanting to take a vaccine. Especially when we don't know the long-term effects of the drugs that are in the vaccines. So if I decide to say I don't want that, then there's something wrong with that. And that's the kind of the vibe that is being put out there, in my opinion. Is almost making it seem as people who say, no, I don't want that. Somehow, it's your fault that the nation is in the situation that it's in. I just don't get that. But I guess if you voted for President Biden, you voted for vaccine mandates. I guess I guess that's what it says now. But for me, I just think that it's a personal choice. It's a decision that you have to make for yourself. If it's something you feel is good and right for you, I applaud you. I say go ahead and take it. I understand. And if I say it's something that is not good and is not right for me, then I feel that I should be afforded that same respect for my opinion, for the way that I see it. Because at the end of the day, do we really know? Do we really know exactly how this thing is going to turn out? Yes, I get it. I get it. We have to do certain things to make sure that the spread of the virus does not get out of control. I get that. But I don't think that this is a step, that we should be taking at this point. I don't think that the virus is out of control. At this point, yes, over 700,000 people have lost their lives to the virus, according to the numbers. And over 30 some odd million, almost 40 million people have been infected by the virus. So there's no denying that there's a problem. I just don't think that this is the step that needs to be taken at this point to mandate it. You got about 70 million, almost 80 million people, according to their numbers, that still have not taken the virus via the vaccine. And I think that's over almost 65-70% of the population that's been vaccinated. So where is it that you get this immunity, this herd immunity that they're talking about once you get a certain percentage of the population vaccinated? And if you're vaccinated, then how is it that I am somehow jeopardizing you when you have the vaccine? You already have the protections. So I don't get it. But I just look at it as kind of like, as a soldier, I fought so that we would have these freedoms. And now after the fight, I've gotten back to the civil world. I'm a civilian now, and I don't get to partake in those freedoms that I fought for. Just somehow does not seem quite right to me. And if you say that you are against it, it's like it's a whole nation that lines up against you because you say you don't want a vaccine. And I just don't understand that. I don't understand why it's that way. I've been seeing lately that NBA players and different entertainment figures out there are not signing on saying to their followers to go and get the vaccine. And somehow, they have a responsibility to tell their followers to do that. And I just, I don't get that. Why is it that LeBron James should tell his followers to get the vaccine when he's not certain that it probably even is for him? He's making that decision based off of different reasons that he has to make that decision. Or maybe he just feels like it's the right thing for him. But that doesn't necessarily mean that because he says it's okay for him, then his followers are just going to say, okay, then it's okay for me because it's okay for LeBron James. Do you remember not long ago when they were talking about President Trump and he should go out and tell his base that he's gotten the vaccine so it would kind of encourage them to get the vaccine? Well, I don't think it did much for encouraging his base because people have their own minds and people make their own decisions when it comes down to what they want to do and what they don't want to do when it comes down to their body. You know, that's your right to do that. It's your right to do what you want to do with your body, not for somebody to tell you what you have to do. You know, you're being forced to do this or that. You know, I just don't get that. You know, that's exactly why we go to war and why we fight, why we serve in the military. You know, there was a time when I was in the military, I didn't have the right to say was going to have this shot or that shot. No, it was roll your sleeves up and let's get down to the business, walk the line and get whatever shot they say you're going to get because you give up those freedoms because now you are working for the government. You are a person that says, "Hey, I give my oath. I take the oath to say that I'm going to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. You know, I'm going to take all orders from those who are appointed, those who are in charge." Okay, so when you do that, when you give up those freedoms, and you are fighting for the freedoms of others, then now that I'm not doing that anymore, I'm a civilian now. Shouldn't I be able to partake in those freedoms that I was fighting for? That's how I see it. That's kind of how I see it. But I know it's not just about me. So I would love to know what your thoughts are on these vaccine mandates. Do you think that this is something that just stops here? You know, is it something that is going to say, oh, okay, we were able to do vaccine mandates. Maybe now we'll be able to do something else. We're able to mandate something else, and people are just, go ahead and be receptive of it. Whatever something else is, I don't know. I never thought that, it would come to, in my lifetime that I would have to or I'd be forced to take a medication if I didn't want to take the medication, you know. And now that's basically what this mandate says. Okay, you don't have to take the medication, but if you don't, then you may lose your job. Or if you don't take the medication, then you may not be able to fly on an airplane. So it's just things that are happening now. You see, this idea of freedom is quite fragile when we look at it. When we really start to examine it, because you've seen people, person after person, lose their job over the last 12, 24 months for saying this or that. So do we really have this free speech? Are we really free to say what we want to say? Well, doesn't sound like it. So not without some severe consequences. So do we really have the right to free speech? Do we have the right to decide what goes into our bodies, what medications we take, what we don't take? Now that's starting to be trampled on, because of these new mandates. So I'm just a bit surprised about the direction that we're going here with this. Or I shouldn't say surprised. I guess just didn't want to expect this to happen. Thinking that at some point that it probably could, but not accepting it. But here it is. So I would love to know what you think. What are your thoughts on the vaccine mandate? How do you feel about it? Do you feel like this is something that is just, one of those type of deals you just shut up and take it? Or do you feel like it's something that you would rather not do, and you have a certain position, you have a certain reason as to why you decide not to do it? Now, if you decide to share that, that's great. If you don't, that's totally up to you. But if you do want to, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. So I wish you the very best. I hope you have a great life, good health. I hope you're in good spirit. And I wish you the very best. And we'll see you at the top because the bottom is much too crowded.